finally have more information about Britney Spears' memoir. The book is called The Woman in Me. This is the cover.
What else? A new insight into her breakup with Justin Timberlake.
I left the impression that you weren't faithful.
I'm not technically saying he's wrong, but I'm not technically saying he's right either.
The memoir opens a window into Spears' southern childhood, born in McComb, Mississippi, and raised in Kentwood, Louisiana. From the outset, she paints a vivid picture of the tumultuous dynamics within her family that would cast a shadow over her adult life. She reveals that her parents had frequent heated conflicts during her upbringing and her father, Jamie Spears, battled alcoholism. When my father drank, he was extremely mean, Spears writes. He drank until he couldn't think anymore. He'd disappear for days at a time. Spears narrates how her longing to perform and make a name for herself in the music industry emerged as a form of liberation from her troubled home life and her small-town origins. When I was alone with my thoughts, my mind was filled with worries and fears, Spears writes. Music stopped the noise, made me feel confident, and took me to a pure place of expressing myself exactly as I wanted to be seen and heard. Singing bridged reality and fantasy, the world I was living in and the world that I desperately wanted to inhabit. In the pages that follow, Britney Spears delves into her highly publicized relationship with Justin Timberlake during the early 2000s. The pop star alleges that he was unfaithful to her, confessing, "There were a couple of times during our relationship when I knew Justin had cheated on me." In a moment of candor, she admits to her own transgression, sharing that she once kissed dancer Wade Robson. However, the tipping point for Spears and Timberlake's romance was her pregnancy revelation. "It was a surprise, but for me it wasn't a tragedy," Spears writes. Justin definitely wasn't happy about the pregnancy. He said we weren't ready to have a baby in our lives, that we were way too young. I agreed not to have the baby. Abortion was something I never could have imagined choosing for myself, but given the circumstances, that is what we did. If it had been left up to me alone, I never would have done it. Shortly afterward, Spears recounts how Timberlake ended their relationship while she was on the set of the overprotected, Dark Child remix music video. In the wake of her split from Timberlake, Spears felt lost and despondent. "When he left me, I was shattered," she confides. Seeking solace, she struck up a friendship with Madonna. Madonna's unwavering self-assurance gave me a fresh perspective on my life situation, she recalls. "I needed a little guidance at that time. I was confused about my life." She modeled a type of strength that I needed to see. In 2004, Britney Spears famously tied the knot with her childhood friend Jason Alexander during a spontaneous trip to Las Vegas, at the renowned Little White Chapel. Their marriage was swiftly annulled, making international headlines. Spears reflects on the frequently asked question about her feelings for him, saying, "To be clear, he and I were not in love. I was just honestly very drunk and probably, in a general sense at that time in my life, very bored." She also recollects her family's reaction, feeling they took the situation too seriously. She states, "My family came and acted like I'd started World War III.
Britney Spears is engaged in a bitter war of words with her ex-husband Kevin Federline after he spoke out to claim that their two sons, Sean Preston and Jaden James, have chosen not to see their mother in months.
Spears alleges that Federline, her husband from 2004 to 2007, became fixated on his music career, to the point where he stopped seeing her altogether while working on his solo album. She reflects, "Maybe this is the way married couples are. I thought as Kevin and I grew more and more estranged. He wouldn't see me. It seemed like he wanted to pretend I didn't exist. I've seen fame and money ruin people. And I saw it happen with Kevin in slow motion." She also discusses how she frequently found herself alone with their children, saying, "I'd had his babies inside of me for a very long time, and I'd sacrificed a lot." Spears gave birth to 2 children with Federline, Jaden James and Sean Preston. She openly acknowledges the challenges she faced during both pregnancies, particularly as her marriage deteriorated and the relentless media scrutiny weighed heavily on her. She expresses, "Becoming a mother while under so much pressure at home and out in the world was also much harder than I expected it would be." Spears reveals, "I was suffering from severe postpartum depression, even though I didn't realize it at the time. I'll admit it, I felt as though I couldn't go on if things didn't improve." She goes on to say, "I'd had these 2 kids back to back. My hormones were all over the place. I was meaner than hell and so bossy." Unfortunately, there wasn't the same conversation about mental health back then that there is now. I hope any new mothers reading this who are having a hard time will get help early. I now know that I was displaying just about every symptom of perinatal depression, sadness, anxiety, fatigue.
New memoir, she said that shaving her hair off was a complete act of rebellion after years of being picked apart for her appearance.
Following the end of her marriage to Federline, they found themselves entangled in a tumultuous legal struggle over the custody of their children. In her own words, Spears describes as part of his bid for full custody, "Kevin tried to convince everyone that I was completely out of control." Spears writes, "He started to say I shouldn't have my kids anymore, at all. He not only wouldn't bring them back to me, he wouldn't let me see them for weeks on end." This emotional turmoil eventually led to the infamous incident on February 16, 2007, when Britney shaved her head. She explains that her actions that night were a result of not being able to see her children for weeks, and she felt isolated. The public and paparazzi viewed it as a bizarre spectacle, but few grasped the depths of her sorrow as her children were taken away from her. Which one was the most jaw-dropping part of the memoir in your eyes? Tell us in the comments section and don't forget to subscribe. After a series of psychiatric holds and episodes of erratic behavior, she was placed under a court-ordered conservatorship, largely orchestrated by her father and his associate, Louise Taylor, who had a background in sports and entertainment management and had served as Britney's business manager at one point. Spears suspects financial motives behind the conservatorship, as it is typically reserved for individuals with diminished mental capacity, whereas she remained highly functional. She realized that her father, Jamie Spears, had been paying himself an exorbitant salary, exceeding $6 million, while also distributing substantial sums to individuals close to him. Furthermore, Jamie Spears employed the conservatorship to exert personal control over her life. This legal arrangement consisted of 2 components, the conservatorship of the person and the conservatorship of the estate. Spears writes the conservator of the person is designated to control details of the conservatee's life, like where they live, what they eat, whether they can drive a car, and what they do day to day. I am convinced that it was all planned and that my dad and my mom and Lou Taylor were all involved. It felt like my father and Lou's employee, Robin, ruled my life and monitored every move I made. They treated me like I was a criminal or predator. Within its confines, Spears recounts how her love for music and the stage began to wither, particularly when she was coerced into performing against her will. "I became a robot. I become more of an entity than a person on stage," writes Spears. "I had always felt music in my bones and my blood. They stole that from me. My heart wasn't in recording music anymore. I had no more fire to bring. I was so over it." Spears admits that, on certain occasions, she deliberately undermined her own performances as a form of rebellion. "I'd dance in a way where I wouldn't move a hair on my head," she writes. "Everyone who was making money off me wanted me to move my hair, and I knew it, and so I did everything but that. By holding back on stage, I was trying to rebel in some way." She reminisces about her introduction to #FreeBritney, a fan-driven movement that raised awareness about the torment she was enduring under the conservatorship. It was during her stay at a rehab treatment center in 2018 that Spears first became aware of this movement. One of the nurses, the only one who was real as hell, called me over to her computer," writes Spears. "It was women on a talk show talking about me and the conservatorship. My connection to my fans helped them subconsciously know that I was in danger. Seeing them marching in the streets, chanting 'Free Britney.' That was the most amazing thing I'd ever seen in my life."